How's everybody doing this morning?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic.
Great.
All right, so we're going over crane safety, signals, rigging. Little story here. There's a couple of guys lifting up roof trusses in Atlanta, and the crane struck a power line. Power went down through the boom, burnt two guys that were standing near the crane. The crane was fine. The guys were very injured. They had to be life flighted. The crew that witnessed, the remaining crew that witnessed this incident were pretty shaken up, and they went home. So I mean, you guys can imagine your partner's getting hit and electrocuted from the boom of a crane. So with crane safety,
Who are we safeguarding? People working on the roof? People working around the crane? People working inside the building? Of course, pedestrians outside of the building. The operator. The owner of the building. Your company and employer. And friends and family of all the above. Who is responsible? You. Be proactive.
all right, general conditions. Roofers and tinners are responsible. No working under the load. There's going to be a material weight chart that's going to be coming up. You guys can see how heavy this material is. It could pose a crushing hazard. Hard hats must be worn, it says by worn roofing employees during crane operations. So this year we've had a lot of subcontracting with different jobs, whether we're working for a sub or the sub is working for us as it's a mason or anything else. Those guys need to be in a hard hat too. If the crane is on site, anybody in that vicinity needs to be wearing a hard hat. And everybody can identify all the issues. And the roofers can see what kind of conditions are up on the roof that the guys can't see from the ground. So never let the load pass over your head. And then overloading decking. Again, that weight chart's going to come in handy. Know the weight of the load. Be aware of the deck and building load limits. I mean, if it's if you put it in a weak area, that thing could come crushing through the roof. So identify structural areas to place the loads, load bearing walls, beams, columns, etc. And then hand signals. Determine one qualified, competent person to signal the operator. Maintain visual contact with the operator. You can use a radio if you can't make eye contact. And all of the crew should know hand signals. And if there's a helper on the roof that doesn't know yet, don't put him up first to signal. So equipment inspection. Look for damaged hydraulics lines on the crane and the equipment. Cables, slings, lifting forks, hooks, tag lines, etc. Notify operator immediately of any damaged equipment, and then remove any damaged equipment. Tag it out. Use one of our red tags. We've got those for a reason. If you can, fill them out as best you can with exactly what's going wrong with the equipment. That way, when the mechanics get it in the shop, they can take a look at it instead of trying to guess and troubleshoot. They know exactly what that equipment was doing or not doing in order to get it fixed. So rigging, make sure everything's secure. I was on a job, we had some Akron guys, I believe, that were rigging up a big old buggy. And two of the hooks slipped off and the buggy swung down. It almost hit one of our guys. But luckily nobody was hurt. It was just a close call. Make sure everything's balanced and rigged by a qualified, competent person.
Crane setup and pre-lifting meeting. Pre-site inspection, that would be by me, something I'm going to start to do this year. Overhead wires need to be 20 feet away from the boom. Stable ground. Basement's not quite sure where that will come in, but you never know. Retaining walls, we have this past year we've done a lot of work at Kent, and the one site was very hard to get into because of a retaining wall for the crane. One day you could get in, next day you couldn't because of the setup. The ground needs to be solid and less than a 1% grade. Ground hazards, underground parking, keep aware of that. There are tunnels sometimes that go from building to building. Of course, underground utilities, and then your surroundings, adjacent buildings, traffic, pedestrians. Barricade the crane area. Be sure all pedestrian access is clearly blocked. Do not restrict emergency exits of the building. We need to notify the building occupant, owner, representative of crane operations for that day. Don't crane over an occupied space if possible, and some places we go to, they require that. Weather conditions, rain, you know, I know we are out in the rain on certain days because on good days we're roofing, but we have to be careful in the rain. Winds excessive of 30 miles an hour, we probably shouldn't have the boom up. And ice and snow, just need to be careful. What's wrong with this picture?
The guys underneath the road.
Yeah,
Anything else?
what about the cars?
Looks like he's over the cars.
Yes, how about the, it's hard to see, but take a look at the guy on the roof.
He's not harnessed up.
No hard hat.
No hard
Yeah,
hat, right?
yeah, I'll leave those.
So just be mindful, I mean, we can all stop situations like this by being proactive. You know, if you see a guy walking in the area or near, you know, we're a competent person, we could stop it and fix the situation. So, the signals, you know, just to be clear, you know, you gotta have eye contact and give good signals. We do have high visibility gloves and they do help. Doing a signal out in front of you doesn't help because a lot of times, you know, you might be in the shadow, the operator can't really see you. So always out to the side, you know, big sweeping movements, but, you know, you can see these little illustrations. Hoist the load, lower the load, raise the load, slowly, your hand above it. Lower the load slowly, that's an important one that he wanted to emphasize. And then extend the boom, retract the boom, and swing the load. Raise the boom, lower the boom, raise the boom, lower the load, raise the boom, raise the load, and stop. This is another one that really needs emphasis. You know, some guys just go like this and they can leave their hand up. Well, now you're telling them to swing the load. So this is stop. And then this is emergency stop. Both arms out. So here's that material weight sheet. Like a roll of EPDM 060 10 by 100, 350 pounds. You know, it doesn't seem like a whole lot right there with all the other stuff we use, but 350 pounds coming down and hitting a guy is, you know, potentially deadly. 25 rolls of modified is over a ton. So, can of aluminum coat is close to 60 pounds. I mean, that's not light stuff. So just be mindful when you're, you know, near the load, moving things around and loading the roof surface. All right, the questions. What is the most common cause of a crane-related fatality?
Electrocution.
Electrocution. Hit by, struck by is getting close, but it is electrocution. What is the minimum distance to operate the crane near power lines? 20 feet with extreme caution. So answers. Anybody have any questions? No? All right, enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. I'm John Petrosky. I'm stepping in for Mike Jackson today. We get to talk about ladder safety. So, yearly over 160,000 injuries and 300 deaths are caused by falling off of ladders, and most are from only 10 feet. It's the leading cause of deaths on a construction site. Sometimes, some of the CMs we're working for now, they don't even let you use a ladder unless you get prior approval. So, and I think that's gonna become more of the norm than it is not. That was one of our jobs last summer. I think Total Roofing was doing that. ladder setup, first thing you flag off the area you're gonna set the ladder up, where you're gonna set it up. Make sure there's no power lines around and never lean one on a power line. You have to stay at least 10 feet away from any energized line. And the angle of the ladder is a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning for every 4 feet up, you go 1 foot out. Make sure the top of the ladder is 3 foot above the parapet or the edge of the roof and tie it off securely. And never set it up by any doors. Somebody swing a door open and knock you right off the ladder as you're going up. Okay, ladder inspection. Make sure you're proactive before you even mount the ladder. The ladder rungs sometimes are free of oil. Make sure they're free of oil, grease, and other slipping hazards. Make sure the feet are working right, the rungs, brackets are all good, and all the moving parts are working. Check all the bolts, make sure the rope's not frayed and the ground level is nice and firm. I had it's probably been, I can't remember now, maybe 15 years, but I had a ladder rung snap on me, and I was probably 20 feet up, so luckily my feet hit the next rung, so I probably wouldn't be here right now. Obviously I didn't do my ladder inspection, which I do now. Ladder safety. When you're climbing a ladder, you're not allowed to carry any tools up. You have to keep 3 points of contact at all times, face the ladder, and never more than one person on the ladder. In conclusion, although ladders are part of our everyday life, at both work and at home, it is important we do not take them for granted. Ensure you inspect and utilize ladders appropriately. And that, I want to emphasize at home too. A lot of this that you're learning today, you can tie in back at home too. And so, this is important for work, but it's important for personal life too. Okay, questions? Always blank the equipment before each use. Inspect. Correct. Let's see, what's the ratio for the proper lateral angle?
4 to 1.
And how many points of contact?
3.
3, very good. Okay, that's it for ladder safety. Next.
Okay, I'll be talking about scaffold safety. Warren Roofing installs and erects some scaffolding, but usually we subcontract it out. So our discussion on scaffold safety setup really is proactive in knowing the hazards before we even go up on them. Someone else might be erecting the scaffold, but of course, we need to know the hazards to be proactive and prevent a hazard. So we'll start off with scaffold must be plumb and level. Wheels or base plates are to be used to establish firm, level base on a solid ground. When we're using wheels on the base of the scaffold, they have to be locked or chalked. Mud sills must be used in scaffold to construct on soft and unstable ground, and we'll see some pictures on that. And then the scaffold ties of structure every 20 feet vertically and 30 feet horizontally. When it comes to the scaffold itself, all the pins need to be in place. And one thing that I've come across is people are using different pins, different manufacturer parts with a certain type of scaffold. It's not allowed. It has to be the parts that are consistent with the scaffold itself that's being erected. Okay? Scaffold and proper setup. This was a job site that we were on. A subcontractor set this up, and see, look at how, for instance, how close it is to the foundation, that ditch there. We had to call them out, and they took care of it right away. And that's one of the reasons why we need to be competent in seeing these hazards and knowing these hazards. Scaffold setup safety, once again, planks should not extend over the end supports, less than 6 inches or more than 12 inches. No gaps between the planks larger than 1 inch are allowed. All planks must be fastened to scaffold framing. Guardrail systems are not required on the building side of the platform. And the scaffold must be 14 inches or less to the wall itself. If it's more than that, there has to be a rail system on it. Okay, on scaffolding, toe boards have to be installed. Employees shall not climb cross braces or end frames. There's usually a ladder or something that can get to the access of the scaffold itself. Does anybody know the fall protection for scaffolding itself? What's the distance? It's different than fall protection on the roof. It's 10 feet. So anything from 10 feet higher, you have to have some type of fall protection when it comes to working off the scaffolds. Vertical ladders, we talked about that, are to a scaffold in excess of 35 feet, needs to have a rest platform or a stair tower. Never use scaffolding until it is inspected and signed off by a competent person. Okay, we're going to see some examples. Real nice ramp going up to a scaffold. Notice the guardrails in place. Good setup. This is one of our stair scaffolds that we install. Nice job there. Okay, so when it comes to scaffold itself, competent person goes and fills out this checklist daily. After he fills out this checklist, there's going to be a tag. He's going to sign it and he's going to date it. And this will be done daily. Any questions?
I
Paul?
think that scaffolding that we erected at NASA, you know how you said the planks always need to be secured? I don't think there's any way to secure those planks. I think they're always floating. Like that, they just wrap around the railing.
Okay, good question. Paul was talking about our stair scaffolding, and those are manufactured planks, and they have a bracket that kind of clips right onto the bar.
Yeah.
The earlier ones we were talking about, the planks, are wooden planks.
All right.
Those are different. But that's a good question, Paul.
I just wondered.
All right, never use scaffolding until it is inspected and signed off by a competent person. Very good. What is a competent person? Anybody?
Anyone that's trained.
Trained.
Somebody can recognize the hazard and somebody to fix it.
That's right. It's an individual who can recognize hazards and has the authorization to correct those hazards. Guardrail systems are not required on a building side when the platform is less than from the building. 14 inches. Good job. All right. I think now we're going to take a break, and we'll be back here in about 10, 15 minutes, all right?
Hi everybody, my name is Nate with Warren Roofing. I'm a project manager here. I also sell work. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today is hit by, struck by, and some of the hazards that are involved. This is one of the OSHA Focus 4, which means it's recognized as one of the most common hazards in our industry. So it's a pretty important topic. Possible hazards. I don't know if you guys have ever been involved in a tear-off, but I'm sure you guys have been hit by rocks coming off the cutter, or maybe masons are working on a scaffold and you've got bricks that they're knocking out and dropping, so those are some hazards to look out for on a job site. As well as trucks backing up on a job site, you know, working with lulls, when we're hoisting equipment. These are all hazards that we need to be aware of. How can we avoid these hazards? I was just talking about rocks getting thrown off cutters. Safety glasses is part of our PPE that we should be wearing every day. This is an important item that can protect our eyes. High visibility jackets can protect us from trucks not being able to see us in low light situations when we're just starting a job in the morning. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of trucks that are you know, not our trucks, they're insulation trucks or something like that. Those guys aren't used to working on construction sites, so wearing our high visibility jackets is going to be a big help there. Also, barricading around our dumpsters is something we need to do, as well as job sites when we're hoisting equipment. Passerbys, pedestrians, A lot of people like that are walking by the job site and they'll wander right under our crane if we don't look out for them. So that's why we need to make sure we've got our crane flagged off, our dumpsters flagged off, when we're throwing tear off or anything like that down on the ground. I don't know if you guys are all familiar, but we had an incident a couple years ago, one of our employees. So I kind of want to review that incident and talk about it. Has anybody ever seen this up on a roof before?
Nope.
A tear off? Well, my understanding is it does happen from time to time, and I just want to say that this is not acceptable on our job sites. This is considered modifying a piece of equipment, which is something we cannot do. It would be considered an OSHA violation if anyone did see us doing this, OSHA or managers of any kind. General contractors, customers have also seen this, and it's been brought to our attention. So, why do we do this? Does anybody know why we do this?
Increase production. Faster.
Makes it go faster. I can appreciate that, but instead we need to take the time and just use shovels, brooms, and sweep up debris. It's a little bit slower, but it's definitely necessary.
Just two people.
I want to talk about what happened
Can we
here.
get one of those welded on there?
Fan something up like a push bucket in the front.
Well, there are some, we can talk about that later. I know there's some pieces of equipment we can use in lieu of this. I believe a Gravely can be outfitted with a plow, but some of the issues we've had with that is it's another piece of equipment on a job site. So we have complaints if the job site's already crowded, it's just one more thing up there you gotta move around, so. But we can talk about that. So, some things to talk about what happened here and what the incident involved was this piece of plywood. I don't know how it was arranged that day, but it was on this. Another employee got on this piece of plywood to be weight on the plywood so they could push the debris. That piece of plywood then slid up the rhino and pinched a finger, amputated a finger between the plywood and the eyelet hook. So that's what occurred that day. As a result of this incident, we had someone amputate a finger. We had hospital visit. That hospital visit involved actually two roofers. Somebody had to leave the job site with the person that got injured, which made the crew size that day go from 5 to 3. So you can imagine tearing off a roof. Now you've only got 3 guys to put the roof back on. So it was a long day, I can say that. We also had a post-accident meeting with the customer. That involved meeting with 5 to 7 people at the facility to kind of discuss what happened, why it happened, and what we're going to do differently going forward. We had the individual put together some toolbox talks, we had retraining, we had an incident report. So as you can imagine, it was a lot of work in the office. I know you guys sometimes don't see that, but with these accidents, they do cause a significant amount of work. And one of the things to take away from this incident is it was avoidable. This is something that we actually created hazard on a job site. We brought something new that was a problem to the job site by trying to modify some equipment on site. We need to be proactive and not create these hazards. We already have enough tough things on our plate every day, so I think that's something to mention. Things we can do ahead of time to prevent hit by, struck by hazards. Conduct job site meetings on a daily basis. This includes our toolbox talks. I know some of the guys, we have issues, sometimes we're just signing the paperwork and going through the motions. I think it's important that every day when we do our daily checklist and our toolbox talks, if any of you guys have things to bring up about the job site, you know, the GC's not taking care of this or that, or there's an HVAC contractor cutting in holes, or a plumber cutting in pipes, creating hazards for us, that's the time to bring them up to the foreman. And then the foreman can communicate that to our project managers or something, and superintendents, and, you know, get these hazards kind of limited or stopped, whatever we need to do. And questions? So, question number one, can we modify equipment on the roof?
No.
Very good. Question two, what can the crew do ahead of time to prevent hit by, struck by hazards? Identify hazards,
Job meeting before the job starts.
job meetings. How about PPE? What can we do there?
There were safety glasses, high vis,
Hard hats?
hard hats.
Very good, very good. All right, that concludes my presentation this morning.
Hey guys, I'm John Arsena. I know most everybody here, it looks like. Good to see everyone. I am doing bloodborne pathogens today. Who's been through this before with bloodborne pathogens? Most of you have. Who knows what bloodborne pathogens are? Corey?
It's something transferred through blood.
Yes.
Contact of like saliva, blood.
Yes, bloodborne pathogens are viruses or bacteria that are carried in your blood or other bodily fluids that can cause disease in people. Who knows a type of a bloodborne pathogen? Corey?
Hepatitis.
Hepatitis B and C, HIV, AIDS. The point here is that it's very serious. There are serious diseases you could get from bloodborne pathogen. It's not just the common cold and some minor issues. Do you know how bloodborne pathogens are transmitted? Through contact with infected blood or bodily fluids, right? So the main thing I want us to get out of this show today is that be proactive. Treat all bodily fluids or blood that you come into contact with as if they're infected. So we know how you get them. You come in contact with infected blood or bodily fluids. But can you get it just by touching blood? No. Your skin acts as a barrier, okay, between the infected or the bloodborne pathogen and yourself. However, you could contact a bloodborne pathogen through open sores, cuts, abrasions, damaged skin, okay? Anybody that shaves that's ever cut themselves shaving, you could easily see how you're helping someone out with a cut, and then you get some of their blood on your hand, and you go and you touch your face. There's your bloodborne pathogen. Or if you've ever been sunburned on a roof before, like I'm sure everyone has, or pitch burn, there's damaged skin that you can contract a bloodborne pathogen through. You could also get it through your eyes, nose, and mouth, which are your mucous membranes. So now we know how you get them. How do you protect yourself?
Wear gloves when you're cleaning up something.
PPE, that's right. Gloves. So we have a first aid kit. And where's the first aid kit on a job site?
In the job box when I form the
In the
show.
job box, that's right. Gloves. You can wear these gloves to help protect from bloodborne pathogens when you're treating an injury or cut or a scrape. They have to be water impervious, meaning water can't get through them. Inspect them, make sure they're clean, they don't have any cuts in them. You also want to protect the person you're treating from bloodborne pathogens because you could unknowingly have one also. So if you have cuts on your hands, make sure they're bandaged up first to begin with, and then put gloves on top of that. Also splash goggles. We all wear safety glasses on site, so that's one thing that protects us from bloodborne pathogens because like we said earlier, you can't get them through your mucous membranes. And also CPR mask. This creates a barrier between you and the person that you're performing CPR on. So that's a good thing to use also. What do you do if you're exposed to bloodborne pathogens? Most importantly is wash your hands. That's a big thing to do. Don't use abrasive soap. That Agent Orange that has a sand in it, that can actually open up your pores and do more harm than good. So use non-abrasive antibacterial soap. Wash your hands after exposure. Flush out your mucous membranes. Do you know how long you're supposed to do that for? 15 minutes. Use an eye wash, a garden hose, water bottle, any source of water you have to flush out your mucous membranes. Always report the exposure. Report the exposure, and you want to get blood tested also. And then a big thing is to decontaminate or sterilize. One, you want to throw away any clothes that have been come in contact with the bloodborne pathogen, but decontaminate and sterilize equipment. That's one thing that we forget about a lot. You're using a hand cutter, you cut yourself, and there's blood on the hand cutter now. Well, don't use that the next day, or don't let someone else use that. You want to decontaminate it. And you do that with a solution of 10% bleach and 90% water. Okay? And if there's a spill, a large area of bodily fluid or blood, you want to cover that area with rags and soak the rags in that solution of 10% bleach to 90% water. Rules for bloodborne pathogens. Treat all bodily fluids as if they're contaminated. Number one, be proactive. You don't want to help someone out with a cut and end up with hepatitis B and then have to explain that to your wife or girlfriend. That's not a fun conversation, okay? Always wear PPE in exposure situations. Replace torn or punctured PPE. Disinfect or dispose of used PPE. Wash hands immediately and report all expected exposures. Does anybody have any questions? Bloodborne pathogens can be transmitted by contact with blood. True or false? Bloodborne pathogens can be transmitted through mucous membranes of eyes, nose, and mouth. True. PPE that helps control the exposure of bloodborne pathogens are waterproof goggles, gloves, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation mask, or all the above.
All of the above.
That's it. Good job, guys.
First off, everybody is supposed to be trained in first aid. Is everyone here trained in safety and first aid? Good. If not, we provide it, so does your local. But more important is, it expires every 2 years. Does everybody know if theirs is current or not? So be proactive and keep that up to date. You never know when you're gonna need to use the training that you've had. And if you don't know what date yours is, Dave has it all on record. So it's very important to know the emergency phone numbers and where they're posted. And also where the first aid kit's located and what's in it. So where's the first aid kit located?
Job box or the foreman's truck.
Figured you know that from last time. But notify the supervisor immediately if the kit is missing or incomplete. You gotta figure if somebody cuts themselves, you use the gloves, and nobody says to replace the gloves. The next time you go to use it, you could be exposed to a hazard because nobody said to replenish the first aid kit. And you should never attempt any rescue procedures if you're not trained or equipped. Okay. When you're calling EMS or 911, you need to know the location of the emergency, the type of emergency, number of victims, the phone number you're calling from, and what treatment has been done so far. So there's a list of basic rules. A really important one is to stay calm. Don't panic, okay? You need to evaluate the victim so that you can tell EMS what's going on. Make sure that they're breathing. If not, then you need to start performing CPR. And then always continue first aid treatment until the EMS personnel shows up. Don't stop. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about hypothermia because we had an incident this summer. An employee suffered from hypothermia and had to go to the hospital. And you guys all work hard in the heat, right? So, what is hyperthermia? Anybody know? No.
When your body reaches the temperature that.
Well, your body
no longer
cannot cool
cool,
itself.
yeah.
Hypo is cold. Hyper
Oh,
is
okay.
probably more important for you guys with working out in the summer. So there's a few types of hyperthermia: heat rash, heat stress, heat cramps, and heat stroke. You kind of get harder on your body as that list goes up. But signs of hyperthermia is headache, nausea, reduced alertness, dizzy, swelling, and sweat. Your sweating stops, and if the sweating stops, that's not good. So heat stroke, it's life-threatening. So you have to take it very seriously. Your core body temperature is 106 or above. Sweating stops. If you see one of your coworkers and they're not looking good and their sweating stops, you need to get them off the roof right away. conditioning, get them water. Without immediate first aid, if somebody has heat stroke, they can get into coma and die. So being proactive, staying hydrated, and noticing the beginning signs of hyperthermia can prevent injury to you and or your coworkers. Okay. Questions? It's very important to A, know where the emergency phone numbers are posted, know where the first aid kit is, know what's in the first aid kit, or all of the above. Awesome, good job. And then what is hyperthermia? It happens when your body's too cold. No. Working in wet conditions, lower back pain from lifting heavy objects, or your body's unable to cool itself. All right.
Okay, as John said, I'm Aaron Chamberlain. For those of you who don't know me, run our service department with Tim Kowinski. And today I'm talking about electrical safety. Start off here with electrical safety. We started off with a little meme from the internet. And it says, electricians, just because you watch MacGyver, I always say this wrong, MacGyver doesn't make this a great idea. So it's the same up on the roof. Just because a power tool that you're using is damaged and it's still working, or you got a frayed power cord and it's still working, it doesn't make it a great idea to still keep using it. So we just want to start off a little joke there. So electrical safety. It's important to be aware and recognize the dangers associated working with and around electricity. Everybody is responsible for electrical safety on the job site, so be proactive. If you see something, let your foreman know, like I said, in the cord situation, cut it, remove it from the site. Burns, electrocution, heart attacks, loss of limbs, and life are the risks associated with working with electrical equipment and electrical sources. Examples of some hazards are the power lines, damaged cords, damaged power tools, and wet conditions, all of which you guys run into daily basis. So what's the protocol for electrical safety? So like I said, you're going to inspect all cords and tools daily. If damaged or frayed, cut the cord and remove from site. Note, extension cords can only be used one at a time. That's per the manufacturer's specification. So if you got to go somewhere 100 feet down the roof and you only have two 50-footers, you cannot connect those together. You have to have just the one 100-footer. Again, if it's something you call in here, Kenny can get something out to you. But that is pretty much, that's like a willful there. It says right there that you can't connect them together, and you're doing so. Check for power lines on, above, or on the ground, the working area. This typically would be handled by the project manager before you guys got on site, but again, if you see something, you're definitely going to want to let them know, and it'll get addressed. Always use GFCIs. Those are ground fault circuit interrupters, and if you didn't know, those shut off the device if electrical current flows through an unintended path. Example would be water or yourself. If that path actually crosses past your heart, it can stop your heart from beating. Always use double insulated tools when possible. These protect the user from electrical shock. And you can know it's a double insulated tool because it's going to have the double square symbol on it. Most of the power tools you guys use have those, but then you're also, you got them plugged into the GFCIs as well, so it's kind of like you're covered either way. Next, we just have some examples. Here we got the frayed cord, and then the male piece there is damaged. Again, you don't want to use those. Here's the example of the not to plug in extension cords one to another. It has to be just one. And again, most of the tools that you use will have this symbol on it. If it don't, you definitely want to use the GFCIs.
What's that symbol mean, Aaron?
It means it is a double insulated tool, so the motor in there is double insulated, and again, like stated before, it protects you from, if there was a malfunction, you're not going to become electrocuted. So power line safety. You're going to stay away 10 feet away from live power lines. I got a slide later on that shows some things we can do if you do have to work within 10 feet of those power lines. Our number one thing we always want to do is we would have like an electrical contractor shut off the power so you're able to work around those. We do have some other alternate means if necessary, and like I said, you'll see them here in a little bit. Stay 35 feet away from a down power line. And then this next one is self-explanatory. if a down power line, you know, happened to happen when you were in that area, obviously you're gonna wanna remove yourself from that area as quickly as possible, and obviously, you know, contact, emergencies at that time. And then keep the crane boom at least 20 feet away from live power lines. And here's that example I was speaking of before. This roof here, you know, we ended up blanketing this. Well, we had our electrical contractor do this. We actually have these now where we can have the electrical contractor come in and install these blankets to protect you, if we cannot shut the power off. Sometimes you have clients that, hey, these are our business hours, this is how we make our money, we're not willing to shut it off, and what have you. And then to end here, we wanted to make sure you guys gotta be proactive, not only here at work, but also at home, or whatever you're doing. This guy right here, I gotta come over here and do this, but he's having a little picnic with his family, and not being proactive, not being aware, wandering around here.
Shocking.
Shocks himself. So again, just a little shock, but you need to be aware of those things. All right, so now we're on to our questions. First is, when do we use GFCIs?
Always.
That's right. The second is, how far should we stay away from live power lines?
10 feet.
Correct. And the third would be, how far should we stay away from a down power line?
35 feet.
You got them. That's right. Any questions on what we had?
Good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Tim Kowinski. I work on the service side of the house. Today I'm talking about hazardous communications. So what is HAZCOM? HAZCOM is communicating to all employees the hazards and the protective measures for using the stuff we use. Along with HAZCOM, there's PPE, certain kinds of PPE. So a lot of you guys use cleaners, that kind of stuff. You know, part of the HAZCOM PPE would be like, you know, the rubber gloves if you're supposed to use the proper PPE to use for whatever you're using. The first part of our HAZCOM is Global Harmonized System. So it's a worldwide labeling system. GHS gives information on safe handling of hazardous chemicals nationwide. So I was going to actually bring in a can of HB 250 here to show a couple of symbols and signs on it. But if you're here in America, it's got the same symbols here as it does if you were in France. So it's kind of a good thing throughout. The second part of HAZCOM is safety data sheets. I'm sure you guys have all heard about those throughout your careers, or even if you're just starting out. The foreman back in the day used to carry this big, huge Tupperware container in the back of the truck. You'd have to go in and look through whatever you're looking for. Nowadays, it's pretty fancy. All you guys have these fancy little devices that you can use that fancy Google machine. And so, for instance, I have I Googled HP 250 from Carlisle to see what it come up within seconds. Just like you guys do on Facebook. I know you guys are always looking at Facebook. It pops it out, gives you like a 12-page report in seconds, so you can check it out. There's all kinds of good information. It's got on there, you know, the stuff you're supposed to use, the stuff you're not supposed to use, shouldn't be drinking it, that kind of good stuff. So to access the SDS sheet, you can go into your phones, foreman's tablets, job trailers here at Warren Roofing, or in the job site trailers. So along here is a sample label of the globalized harmonized systems. So it's got the identifiers on it, the suppliers, where it comes from, precautionary statements. So like, you know, it's simple. It says, keep container tightly closed, store in a cool, well-ventilated place that is locked. So it gives you kind of ideas what to use for whatever you're using. I mean, it's pretty simple. It even gives you pictures, right? So on the can, it'll show a picture of something or another. So that's the label. And then these are the pictograms I talked about. So each pictogram's got its own little thing. So this one here's like a health hazard. I'm not gonna go through them all, but just to give you a couple examples. Underneath it says carcinogen, I can't read that one. Reproductive toxicity, respirator sensitizer, stuff like that. So you can go through on whatever the can is or you're dealing with, and it'll show a picture and it tells you what's going on with it. Makes it kind of simple for you. That's pretty much it, pretty easy. So here's the test I got for you guys. Do you have any questions for me? No? Question I have for you, HAZCOM or HCS is the abbreviation for hazardous communications, true or false?
True.
Name one way to look up an SDS sheet.
Tablet or 5.
It's not fixed. Awesome.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott James, and I'm the inventory manager here for Warren Roofing, and I'm here to discuss ergonomics. What is ergonomics? It's the study of people's efficiency in the working environment or work economics. Why is ergonomics important? Fitting the job to the person, helps lessen muscle fatigue, increases productivity, reduces the number of and severity of work-related musculoskeletal disorders, or MSD. Work-related activities that cause injury include twisting, gripping, repeated movements, working in awkward positions, lifting, using vibrating equipment, kneeling, applying force, bending, or overreaching. MSDs affect muscles, nerves, blood vessels, ligaments, and tendons. Some examples are carpal tunnel syndrome, tendonitis, rotator cuff injuries, or muscle strains. To improve ergonomics, you can use Accutrack guns, automatic heat welding robots, roof warriors, workhorses, hydraulic hoists, knee pads, and good boots. To reduce fatigue and eliminate injuries during floor, ground, or roof level work, use your auto feed screw guns with extension handles. Position work area waist high to eliminate stooping. Wear knee pads if work must be performed on knees at roof level. For lifting, holding, and handling materials, always keep load within 10 inches of your body. Don't twist your body while lifting heavy objects. Lift with your legs, not with your back. Keep your back as straight as possible. Hand intensity work would include substitute power tools for manual tools to reduce the amount of hand force needed. Use hand tools with power grips for better support, and choose the right tool for the job. Any questions? Pretty straightforward. Question 1, what are the main benefits of workplace ergonomics? A, reduce musculoskeletal disorders, increase productivity, increase longevity, or D, all of the above?
All the above.
And then question number 2 here, the answer is stretching is another great step to reduce MSDs. Any questions? Thank you very much.
I'm David Meyer. I'm safety manager here at Warren Roofing. I'm here to talk about personal protective equipment. Whoever starts here working at Warren Roofing gets personal protective equipment. And so everyone has it. Personal protective equipment. When you can't eliminate all physical hazards through engineering or administrative controls, personal protective equipment is your last line of defense. Data shows that most workers who suffer head, eye, foot injuries are not wearing PPE. These injuries can be avoided altogether with the proper personal protective equipment. Be proactive. Know your hazards. If you know your hazards, that'll give you the opportunity to choose the right PPE needed. Know your chemical hazards. Safety data sheets are provided on all the chemicals and materials on each job site. The foreman, as we talked earlier, has an iPad and an iPhone, which can access any type of safety data sheets. Also, labels on containers also give you information on the hazards of the chemicals you're working with. Warren Roofing can also provide safety data sheets to whoever requests them. PPE or PPPE. Can someone tell me what the other P stands for?
Proper.
Proactive. That's the way to go. Proactive personal protective equipment. Good job. Everyone has it. Everyone should be trained on how to use PPE, whether it's here at Warren Roofing, Local 44. Hard hats. The OSHA standard reads, employees working in areas where there is a possible danger of head injury must wear protective hard hats. Hard hats are provided by Warren Roofing. The recommendation to replace a hard hat is every 5 years. Do not paint or cover up a hard hat with stickers. Always wear a hard hat when the crane is in operation. Hard hats are to be worn up and down ladders. Always wear a hard hat when working with a high impact tool. And wear hard hats to protect yourself from shocks and burns. What's wrong with this picture?
Got a bucket on his.
Okay. Got a bucket on his head. You can do a little demonstration here. Okay. We've got a little watermelon here, Mr. Melon. Put a hard hat on him. Alright. So, what's the weight of your average hammer?
16 ounces.
16, some guys have 20s, right?
Pound and a half.
Okay. So here I have a 5-pound weight here. I'm going to drop it on the hard hat. And there it is. No damage whatsoever to Mr. Melon. And then, just to show a little more, I'm going to drop a 10-pound also on that. Once again, the hard hat provides good head protection. That's why it's necessary to wear your hard hat. Safety glasses. OSHA standard reads, eye protection must be provided to prevent eye injuries from physical, chemical, and radiant hazards. Construction has the highest rate of eye injuries, more than 10,600 incidences a year. Eye protection is one of the top 10 OSHA violations in the Cleveland area. Our company policy is to wear safety glasses 100% of the time. Let's see, each person gets approximately 15 to 20 pairs a year. It all depends on the crew and the jobs. Goggles and face shields are also available. All right, safety glasses to be worn at all times. This will go to my next demonstration here. This is a BB gun. And what we're going to do is
The lid.
show.
There goes the TV.
Goal you got there.
You better,
All right, let's see what we got here.
you're close.
I hit it?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't tell from inside right here. And I've done this several times before. It barely even nicks the glasses. I mean, that shows how much protection these glasses give you when it comes to eye protection. All right, let's see this. Hold on, let's see this. You want to just leave that there? Yeah. Nothing at all. Another reason why we need to wear safety glasses. Pretty serious stuff.
Oh, shit.
How can we protect that from happening?
Oh, face shield?
Face shield. Good job. Gloves. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, construction workers suffer over 8,600 disabling hand injuries. So that means you get injured on your hand, it's not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to use it like you once did before. The way you can protect your hands are from using the right type of glove. There's different types of gloves. We have rubber gloves, which are used for chemicals. We have leather gloves used for working with torches or hot asphalt. We have cut-resistant gloves, working with sharp objects, and then we have cotton gloves. 40 construction workers daily suffer disabling injuries to their feet. Different types of work boots. I've gone on job sites where guys are wearing work boots that aren't going to protect their feet. And I think you guys being proactive, if you see an employee having a pair of shoes like that or boots, and you need to let them know that, hey, they need some new boots. Personal fall arrest system. 30% of fatalities in construction are from falls. We already heard that before. Personal fall arrest systems. Everyone in this company gets one. All right. Part of the personal fall arrest system, you have the lifeline, the lanyard, the rescue device, anchor points, rope grabs. Additional PPE, Tyvek suits, which can be used for asbestos removal and for resaturant jobs. Safety vests, high-vis shirts are another type of PPE, long sleeves. And then you also have knee pads, hearing protection, earplugs and earmuffs are available. They need to be worn if you are working around a noise more than 85 decibels or more, which is the sound of a lawnmower. Respirators. All employees are encouraged to get your respirator physicals. X-rays by your physicians are recommended. I myself found out that I had spots on my lungs because of X-rays. So you guys are working with asbestos, you get those physicals, go see your doctor, and you're breathing a lot of harmful chemicals, get that X-ray. They have many uses. Most common use for half-mast respirators or powered air purifying respirators are for asbestos. And now we're going to be talking a little bit about silica later on, but let's see. Different type of respirators. PPE conclusion. Competent person is a person who can identify existing and predictable hazards and has the authorization to take proactive measures to provide a safe workplace. PPE is necessary to help complete the job safely. Also, you'll be able to help others choose the best type of PPE to protect themselves from injury. You guys are looking out for each other. All right, all of us can reduce the risk of injuries with PPE and working safely through teamwork. Be proactive by looking out for yourself and for your fellow worker. Here's the questions. What is the first step in using proactive personal protective equipment?
Know the hazards.
Know your hazards. Very good. Oops. What is the recommended time frame for replacing a hard hat?
5 years.
5 years. Worn roofing requires safety glasses to be worn how often?
All the time, 100%.
All the time. Safety data sheets are available at what location?
Job site.
Okay. iPhone, iPad, right? Job site. Very good. That's my talk on personal protective equipment. Next, I'm going to be talking about the new silica standard. Silica has always been a hazard, but OSHA has come up with a new standard, and we need to educate our guys on this new standard. First of all, I want to talk about what silica does. It destroys lung tissue and decreases the airflow. What are the health hazards? Silicosis. All right, it's a scarring of lung tissue. COPD, which shortens the amount of air you can take in your lungs. A lot of people get it from smoking, but silica can also cause that. Fibrotic lung disease, and man, that's a tough one. Anybody want to pronunciate that word? Well,
Black lung.
I got pneumoconiosis, something like to that effect, and it's black lung disease, and that's the one that coal miners get. You guys sure coal miners get that. Okay, silica standard, it takes effect June of 2017. It's respirable crystalline silica, and it's generated by cutting, sawing, grinding, drilling, and crushing of stone, rock, concrete, block, and mortar. So it's going to affect every part of every trade, one way or another. When it comes to roofing and sheet metal, we're going to be disturbing mortar by drilling with hammer drills, all right? And also with grinders when we're cutting in reglets. This is a tool that can be used to collect the dust. It's a hammer drill that contains all the dust, which limits the amount of exposure you get when it comes to drilling into mortar or brick. Target saws. You know, we have target saws here, and they got to be integrated with the water system to keep down the dust. So the hose is constantly running in there when you're cutting pavers. Also, when it comes to cutting reglets, we got to use a vacuum system. So it goes to a vacuum, it sucks all the respirable crystalline silica into a container so that the dust isn't being formed. Okay. Talked about the exposure control methods right here with the different types of equipment, but an alternative way of working with respirable crystalline silica is by using respirators, half mass, or powered air purifying respirators. Okay? So once again, we have different ways of approaching working with silica, and a respirator physical is necessary, of course, if you're going to be wearing a respirator. Okay, and also, I know this is a new standard, but if you want to become more and more familiar with the standard, you could request a written woolen roofing plan. Just ask me. Any questions about silica? Okay. What substances have respirable crystalline silica? EPDM membrane, TPO membrane, PVC membrane, bonding adhesive, primer, oil, gas, mortar, brick, concrete, stone, aluminum, copper, stainless steel. C, mortar, brick, concrete, and stone. Okay, respirable crystalline silica is caused by drilling, crushing, cutting, grinding of masonry, sanding and cutting of wood, shop fabricating and cutting sheet metal products, torching, APP modified roofing. A, drilling, crushing, cutting, grinding masonry. The types of PPE used when respirable silica is present: hearing protection, dust mask, respirator, face shield. It'd be C, respirators. After recognizing respirable crystalline silica, what corrective measures should be taken? Call the office, wear a respirator, use an integrated water system, or all of the above?
D.
All of the above. D, all of the above. Thanks, guys.
Good job, Dave. I'm sorry I threw you off at the beginning though. I'm sorry I threw you because
Oh, no.
I
That's
think it's
fine.
nice for everybody to know,
I think everybody knows.
especially the new hires. So we're doing the videotaping for the new hire training. That's the real reason. So Dave and I don't have to run through this every time we hire somebody. One-on-one. Struggling here. Is that okay, Jim?
That's great, Kenny.
Yeah. Kenny's out for a couple of weeks, so we're all covering different bases. Okay, our fleet program. Every year our insurance company comes in and does an audit of us. And for the last 5 years, they've said the same thing. Our greatest hazard is not anything to do with our primary source of work. It's not on the roofs, it's not in the sheet metal tin shop, but it's our driving liability. We have so many trucks on the road, and the cost and severity of traffic and driving accidents are considered our greatest hazards. Our fleet management program itemizes everything that people need to know in order to drive a company vehicle. We need to do checks on your driving record to make sure that you are a safe driver and you are approved and on our active driving list. It's very important with today's change of technology to recognize that cell phones impair your ability to pay attention to the road hazards and to make the necessary judgment calls when you're distracted by mobile devices. We've had to take the stance of no cell phone use while you're driving a company vehicle. It's easy to say no texting and driving. It's really hard to say no Bluetooth. But the studies and statistics have shown that drivers are just as distracted using Bluetooth, whether it's through your car or in your ear, as you are holding the phone to your ear. And not just anybody can drive the trucks. You have to be approved and on the active driving list in case an accident does occur. With driving, what you do if you're in a driving accident is a little different, but call 911. We do need police reports. Regardless of whose fault it was, we need to have a police officer's involvement, most likely because we become the targets of any other situation. When you hit a company vehicle, it just somehow the dollar amounts just get exasperated. We encourage you to take as many photos as possible. If you get a ticket on your own time, you do need to share that information. Again, being proactive in helping you work your points down in a system is helpful, or not to get points for any type of driving in the off time. Try to be proactive with the management of the vehicles so that they're in good working fashion for everybody all the time. Questions really quickly. I know that we go into more depth with the foreman in their meeting. If you are a company driver and receive a ticket after work, no one needs to know. False. Please share that information. Anyone working for Warren Roofing can drive company vehicles. False. There is no cell phone use allowed in company vehicles. True. All right. Okay, so we're going to try to get this done by quarter till. So I'm going to cover 2 more topics quickly, okay? So our next topic is workplace injuries and post-accident. So with all our training and preparation, how we try to be proactive, it's almost inevitable that accidents happen. What we talk about now is for the 99% of accidents, not the worst case scenario, but the nicks, the cuts, the sprains, the more minor injuries, the bee stings that we continue to face all the time. The single most important message I want you to remember is this. If you're hurt, we want to help you to get you the medical treatment that you need. And in order to help you start that medical treatment process, you need to share with us that you're hurt. Please tell your foreman, and your foreman will share that information with us too. We'll help get you to places for treatment. We will help you get into your recovery process sooner. We will keep you working. We do things like light duty because there's value in continuing to pay you to keep you whole in your lifestyle, all the while you're helping us with sharing your roofing knowledge with us in the office of doing different tasks that we have here. So if you're hurt at work, please share that information so that we can start the process. After you receive medical treatment, you do need to take the necessary post-accident drug testing. It's required by the state of Ohio, more so than us, but it is a part of your auditing agreements as well. Please be in communication with your superintendent as the process continues. And one big change for 2017 and forward that we're doing is, if you're hurt at work, the very next place that you report for work isn't back to the job site. Anymore, there's too many forms and there's too much paperwork. We need you to come back to the office so that we can have a signature, so we can fill out this form and get that wrapped up. So if you get hurt one day, just start it in your mind, your next place to report is to work the next day. Okay? When you are hurt at work, we are going to drive you in one way or to the other to your medical treatment facility for that first visit. So hopefully it's not an ambulance ride. Hopefully it's a coworker taking you. So that is going to be that 2 people will be leaving the job site when somebody gets hurt. So it's important to know that. That's going to be in our revised policy. The foreman can help with first aid, which we all know now is in the truck. The foreman's going to help communicate the information to the office and be that sounding board for help. It's not unrealistic that the foreman's the one who gets hurt, so it's good that everybody hears this information too. Any questions on if you get hurt? Okay. Our last most wonderful topic is what to do with an OSHA inspection. And it's inevitable that we are going to encounter OSHA on the job. We just need to be ready. We ask you to please be courteous, please be calm, and be confident that you are professionals and you know what you're doing, but to not admit guilt, to remain calm, and to not say too much. Those are the important overriding ideas. So if OSHA comes on the job site and approaches you, they will say who they are, tell them your name, and say, let me introduce you to the foreman. Walk him right over to the foreman, and the foreman's going to politely ask him to get off the job site, meet him in the job trailer or the foreman's truck. We want to minimize the time that the OSHA inspector is on the roof until we've had a chance to regroup. And in Cleveland, the approximate time is 30 to 45 minutes that the OSHA inspector will wait. Let the foreman call the office and get some reinforcement support. But again, be calm, be courteous, and be respectful. The exception to be aware of, if there's imminent danger, if the OSHA inspector has identified that there's a huge hole in the roof, we need to correct that hazard immediately. Again, you don't have to say who created the hazard or the details behind it, but imminent danger issues need to be addressed right away. Okay, so our questions, formal questions unless you have a question for me first. No? Okay, so when do you report an injury that happens at work? As soon as possible, that day. That's the best answer. If you get hurt on a Tuesday, where do you go for work on Wednesday?
The office.
Please come and spend some time with us. It might be short and sweet, but it might be for as long as you need. If OSHA arrives on the job site, I should give them as much information as needed. False. Please keep your answers short. I thank you guys for coming in for training today. We hope you're safe on the roof and in your whole lives. We remind you to be proactive and to recognize hazards and those yellow traffic lights with caution, and to slow down just a little bit to keep us a little safer in all that we do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.